Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Officer Onboarding Training. This training is required for all incoming senior executive officers and finance officers as part of annual registration, but beyond that requirement, it's really meant to serve as a foundational resource for how your organization operates here within Georgia Tech. So if you're stepping into leadership this year, this training applies to you. All right. This training exists for clarity purposes. You are not expected to memorize everything I say, memorize the policies. You're not expected to navigate everything perfectly, but you are expected to understand what your responsibilities are, how your organization maintains recognition, when policy applies, when to escalate, and also where to go for help. So, by the end of this training, you should be able to identify first how annual registration even works, identify your responsibilities as an RSO officer, recognize common policy intersections, host events responsibly, and then lastly, navigate, engage in financial systems confidently. And one final reminder before we continue on, policies and procedures may evolve, okay, as they tend to do. If you are ever unsure about a current policy or procedure, please contact the Center for Student Engagement, as we are the authoritative source for any guidance regarding any RSO policies. So let's begin with annual registration. Annual registration is the administrative process that allows your organization to maintain recognition as a registered student organization here at Georgia Tech. Now, recognition matters because it unlocks a few operational privileges. So, when your organization is recognized, it can do things like reserve campus space, it has access to financial accounts, you can apply for funding, advertise on campus, and appear publicly on Engage. Without recognition, all of those privileges are restricted. Okay. So there's three things that annual registration confirms every year. First, it's confirming one, do you have active student leadership? We require a president and a finance officer, so we're looking to hear from them. Two, that there is a confirmed faculty or staff advisor, so we need to confirm that as well. Three, the organization acknowledges that they're operating within institute policies, and you can't acknowledge that if you don't even know what the policies are, right? So just know this process is not a reapplication of sorts or a performance review. It is merely a verification of your leadership and accountability for the future. So timeline. Annual registration opens once per year, March 1st to April 1st. That's the window, all right? All of the required steps must be completed within that window. If a registration is incomplete after the deadline for any reason, then the organization is going to appear as frozen in Engage. And frozen status means a few things are paused, okay? That could be things like inability to reserve rooms, you might not be able to make purchases or reimbursement requests, and you'll also just have general limited system access in Engage, okay? And if you get suspended, you're gonna have to follow up with us to see how you can become active again. To avoid this, 3 roles are required to complete specific steps, okay? The senior executive officer will complete this training, submit the follow-up form, and complete the annual registration form in Engage. The finance officer will complete this training, submit the follow-up form, and they will be done. And then the advisor just has one step. They will complete the advisor confirmation form. Now, approval will not occur until all 3 roles complete their required actions, okay? Now, let's take a look at what annual registration actually looks like in Engage. To complete annual registration, you will navigate to your Engage portal. Once you're there, you will hit Manage Organization, and the registration form will appear in a big blue button right on the front of your homepage. This right here is the annual registration form that you are expected to complete. Now, remember, very important, only the individual assigned to the senior executive officer role in Engage can see the annual registration form. If for some reason you are the senior executive officer and you cannot see the form, check your role in the Engage roster first. Please verify your role assignments. And honestly, do that anyways. We need to be keeping our engage rosters accurate because our engage roles, they determine things like form access, financial tool access, room reservation capabilities, and even official communications that we're sending out. So outdated rosters are honestly one of the most common causes of registration issues that we see. Don't let that be you. And then, if you are ever unsure about your organization status now or in the future, please follow these steps. Log into Engage, review your portal. Okay. And if it says that you are frozen, you have a little snowflake, and you have questions, please reach out to our office in the Center for Student Engagement. You can email us at engage@tech.edu. You can call us. You can even drop by the Student Center. We're on the third floor in the Center for Student Engagement. And if you want to reach out to one of us directly, I have all of our RSO team contact information located on the right side of the screen. Please, if you have any issues, just reach out to us. Early clarification is going to prevent any disruption for your organization. And then once we can get this registration process complete, your organization will be positioned perfectly to operate confidently for the upcoming year. All right, now with registration complete, we will move into leadership. Now, becoming an RSO officer means taking responsibility for more than just events now, all right? You represent your organization within the Institute here at Tech. You also contribute to the broader campus community, and you operate within Georgia Tech systems, okay? So while you may be student led, you are not completely separate from the Institute. Remember, you still operate within Georgia Tech policies, use Institute resources, and you represent the Institute publicly. So it's really important to know that if you're going to be an effective RSO leader, you need to be operating in 3 different areas. Okay. The first one, organizational leadership. All right. This is your immediate bubble. You're planning programs, managing documentation, maintaining continuity, planning transitions. You're also focused on community leadership. You're shaping culture. Here at Tech, you're supporting inclusion. You're navigating conflict responsibly. And then you also have the institutional leadership level as well. You are recognizing policy intersections. You're identifying risks. You're escalating when needed and appropriately. Confidence and caution can coexist. You can be proactive and ambitious while still pausing and pulling us in to clarify expectations when needed. So, just to reiterate, you should not ever be doing things like investigating allegations of misconduct, interpreting complex legal or policy language on your own, signing any contracts or agreements on behalf of Georgia Tech or for Georgia Tech, making unilateral decisions about high risk activities, or, and especially, assuming that silence equals approval. Certain things require escalation. Please always pause and reach out when an event involves alcohol, minors, or large attendance, a member raises any very serious concerns. If you're asked whether something is permitted or allowed, when you're asked to sign documentation, or honestly, if a conflict just feels beyond peer level resolution. Early guidance protects everyone involved. And just to finish off this section, remember, strong leadership builds sustainable organizations. So just keep these few tips in mind, and I think you'll be good to go. Document your processes, distribute knowledge, plan ahead, plan beyond one semester, and be thinking about your long term impact. Leadership transitions and elections. Transitions are one of the most critical moments in an RSO's life cycle, and you're likely going through one right now. So here's what you need to know. First, your Constitution is your governing document, okay? It outlines everything you need to know about how you're supposed to be operating. Things like officer roles and responsibilities, election procedures, removal procedures, membership expectations. It's really important to know that your organization is expected to follow these procedures that are outlined in your Constitution. You're expected to do things like hold elections or selections regularly, communicating any timelines clearly, ensure that any eligible members can participate, and also be documenting appropriately. Any leadership decisions you're making should always be in alignment with your Constitution. And remember, any changes to your Constitution must be approved by the Center for Student Engagement. So please be sending any of those changes over to our office. Now, once your new leaders are selected, there are a few steps you should be following. First, add them to the Engage roster. Then you can go in, assign them the correct positions, correct permissions, make sure they have all of the relevant access they need. After that, have them review their constitutional duties to actually understand their officer responsibilities. And then finally, schedule transition meetings with any relevant contacts that they need to meet with before taking on their role. Knowledge transfer is a leadership responsibility. And so, things I recommend including in that transfer are things like important contacts, vendor information, budget details, event timelines, or honestly, just any important lessons that you learned during your role. And then another tip that people overlook: involve your advisor in transition conversations. Advisors provide institutional memory, context, and professional perspective. So if you're new, reach out to your advisor, get to know them. You might learn something. All right, now we're moving into the fun part: policy awareness and institutional expectations. Quick framing: this section is not about memorizing policy. Like I said, it's just about knowing what types of situations intersect with policy and knowing when to pause and when you need to reach out for guidance. Okay. So, why do policies even exist? Policies for student orgs exist to do a few key things. One, to protect students, to maintain equitable access, to ensure safety, and then lastly, to help organizations operate consistently. So, whenever you see a policy requirement, the question shouldn't be, why are they being so strict? It's usually, what risk are they trying to prevent and what standard are we holding across all of our organizations? Now, this one is important. You are not responsible for enforcing institute policy, but what you are responsible for is recognizing when policy applies, not guessing, and looping in support early. So, there are several institute policies that consistently show up for RSOs. We're not going deep into every policy today, but we are going to cover the common ones on a pretty high level, mainly the ones that tend to affect planning, membership, conduct, and safety. So let's start with the RSO policy. The Registered Student Organization policy defines you. It defines recognition, chartering, and registration, what it means to be an RSO here at Tech. The main takeaway here is being an RSO gives you access to resource and benefits, but it also comes with some expectations for how you're going to be operating. Next are two areas that show up a lot, honestly: equal opportunity and anti harassment. Now, this is about maintaining an environment where students are not excluded, harassed, or treated unfairly. And then on the left side, the student code of conduct. This sets behavior expectations for students, and serious incidents can be addressed through formal conduct processes. Main takeaway here: if something rises to a serious concern, do not try to privately handle it inside the org. Please get support. Now, this slide is one that's especially relevant for officers, okay? Membership and all privileges, including voting, officer positions, must be extended to all students without regard to protected characteristics. So, in plain terms, RSOs cannot set membership rules that exclude students based on protected identity. Now, there is an important nuance for religious student organizations that may limit leadership roles to students who share the organization's beliefs. But the big picture is membership and participation cannot be restricted in discriminatory ways. Next, two high risk policy areas: alcohol and other drugs. If alcohol is involved, there are additional risks and compliance concerns. This is always a pause and ask early category. If either of these topics come up, treat it as a signal to get guidance, okay? Hazing prevention: this isn't just extreme situations. It can also be traditions that involve pressure, humiliation, coercion, unsafe expectations, anything that may be tied to joining or staying in the org. Remember, any of these topics come up, reach out right away. Now we're talking about member removal. If your organization wants to remove a member or is considering removing a member, your process has to follow a clear, objective, and approved process. This process should be clearly written and outlined in your constitution, also known as your governing document. This is why you need objective criteria, a documented process, and an internal method for appeals that aligns with what your org has approved. Takeaway here: you cannot remove someone just because you do not vibe with them. The process needs to be consistent, objective, and fair. Now, policy does frequently intersect with other important RSO activities, such as event planning. All right. It doesn't just live in the documents, it also shows up in real world. Where you might see policy start to intersect with events includes things like food and catering, external vendors, alcohol, minors, contracts. High risk spaces or activities as well. So, if an event starts getting more complex than just a basic meeting, go ahead and build in some time to check expectations early. Two special categories: youth programs and minors. If minors are involved, there may be additional requirements for your event. Always register your event with the youth programs office. And then contracts and signing authority. Students may not sign contracts on behalf of Georgia Tech. So if you are dealing with a vendor, venue, performer, agreement, anything that looks like a contract, pause. Make sure you follow up if needed and route it through the proper access channels. Now let's get a little more specific. Food and catering can have rules based on the space, the type of food, the scale of the event, how much you're spending. We also have external vendors. These come with extra steps, things like contracts, payment processing, compliance expectations that the Institute has for these vendors. The simplest rule here to remember: if money is involved and a third party is involved, assume that there is going to be extra steps. And then decorations, displays, and installations. Please always be confirming your venue guidelines. Not all decorations are permitted in all spaces. So please be confirming this in advance before you accidentally damage a wall permanently by using the wrong kind of tape. Super simple thing we could have gotten in front of there. Now, managing organizational funds. Now, each funding source is going to have different rules and regulations. You're going to need to be aware of them and communicating with the SOFO office to understand what they might be. It's also important to know that only the financial manager, president, or vice president can approve spending. This isn't something that just anybody in the organization can do. And then the last thing I want to remind you for organizational funds: do not prepay for services for your organization before you are approved or the funds have been distributed to you. The money will not be reimbursed if you spend it before you are approved to. Some other very popular policies in here as well. Information on using the Georgia Tech name. As you all know, you may only use Georgia Tech to show location, no official affiliation. And then on the right, for purchasing branded materials, it's important to know that any items manufactured for internal use must be manufactured by an official licensed vendor. So you can find a full list on the website linked right here. All right, where to find official guidance? Please, I want to reiterate, policies and procedures may evolve. So if you are ever unsure, you need help, you need guidance, do not hesitate to reach out to us in the Center for Student Engagement for the most up-to-date information. And always use the Georgia Tech Policy Library as your official reference. I want you guys to go forward with the mindset that I am not guessing, I am not relying on rumors, I am not relying on we did it last year. I'm going to ask early if I am unsure. Now we're moving into events. So this is where your org becomes visible. It's also where planning gaps start to show up the fastest, all right? The goal here: plan clearly, build in time, and do not guess when something feels complicated. So before you are opening any reservation system, I want you all to be pausing and getting the basics straight. What is the purpose of this event? Who is it for? Is it open to the public? Are we collecting money? Will there be food? Will there be vendors? Will there be alcohol? If you can answer those 5 questions, you can usually predict whether the event is going to be straightforward or whether you're entering extra steps territory. And that's the whole point, because clarity up front is going to prevent any problems you might run into later. Events do exist on a spectrum. So some are going to be simple, things like a meeting, a small gathering, low attendance, no outside elements. Others, they start to get complex fast. Okay, you have food, you got alcohol, you got vendors, you have large attendance, maybe you're going off campus, you're working with minors. Just because it's complex, it doesn't mean it's necessarily bad. It just means that you are going to need to start earlier. You need more lead time, you need more coordination. If you handle the complex factors earlier, your event becomes easier, just in general. Every event carries some level of risk. Okay, that doesn't mean that we're not going to host. It means that we're going to plan accordingly. You need to be thinking ahead about what could go wrong. Think about logistics, safety, confusion, policies, compliance, anything like that. And you will automatically be reducing avoidable problems before they even happen. Planning ahead protects your members, it protects your org, and it helps keep your team from being stuck in crisis mode in the moment later. All right. So, some event indicators that should immediately start to slow you down: alcohol, minors, external vendors, contracts, large attendance, any kind of safety concerns. Doesn't mean the event is a no, it just means this is a not last minute type of thing. So, if one of these things is involved, you're going to make sure that you build in extra time, you ask questions early, and you do not back yourself into a corner the week before your event. And remember, friends, off campus does not mean outside of Georgia Tech expectations. If your org is hosting it, funding it, advertising it, or representing it, your responsibilities still apply. So the safest mindset is even if the location changes, responsibilities do not. And if you're unsure about whether something still applies, don't interpret it on your own. Just ask us. Now, when it comes to reserving space, most campus spaces are requested through Georgia Tech's event management system, also known as EMS. Big thing to remember here: requesting space is not the same as having space. Some events require extra review, and some spaces require longer lead time. I want you all to get in the habit of making sure you request early and don't lock in any public details until your reservation is confirmed by the event reservation team. If at any point you cannot access reservation systems, it's likely because of your Engage access. So I want you to follow these steps. First, confirm your Engage role is correct. You should be assigned the room reservation access position. If you aren't, you'll assign it to yourself and you'll give it time because updates are not always going to appear right away. Finally, if something still isn't working, you're going to submit an EMS IT ticket through ServiceNow. That is the fastest way to get the issue routed to the right place. It keeps you from spiraling in 20 different directions. You email events, you email me, you don't know who to get to. Just submit that ticket right away, and we will make sure you get to the right spot. Now, advertising and promoting events. Promotion is part of operations, and these are some of our most popular options for spreading the word about your RSO and various opportunities you might have. Okay. You might post an event to engage, table out on Tech Walkway or here in the Student Center. Maybe you're adding signage to the digital screens that you see around campus, or even just putting up flyers in approved spaces. Only thing you need to remember: posting and promotions do have guidelines. So just make sure that you're following any relevant guidelines that might exist. It's a small step that prevents bigger headaches. So before you print, you post, you tape anything, make sure that you are using approved spaces, you're following the rules for that method. If it doesn't look like you can post something there, you probably can't, and you should probably ask first. So if you're ever wondering what is allowed, how do I even submit that digital signage, please use these resources, these QR codes right here. They will each take you to a relevant website for the advertising source that you're interested in, and you can learn more there. Why you should always create events in Engage. I cannot say it enough, but if your org is hosting something, put it in Engage. This does a few things. Okay, first, it creates a record. Two, it's going to increase visibility through official channels. Engage is the only way for RSOs to be listed in things like the campus calendar, the daily digest, the weekly digest. Three, it supports attendance tracking. And four, it can matter for certain funding or documentation processes. Some funding processes do require your event to be posted and Engage. So basically, if it's not in Engage, it might as well not exist, friends. So be posting your events and Engage. And when you do that, just remember, one post and Engage automatically gets it in 3 different advertising channels. Easy for you. Work harder, not smarter, friends. Now we are moving into finances, okay? This section is not meant to overwhelm you. It is just meant to prevent some of the most common officer mistakes we see. So things like spending before approval, waiting too long, using the wrong processes, all of that good stuff. RSO finances run through systems with support from SOFO, so just know you are not alone in this, okay? SOFO, who even is that? Student Organization Finance Office. They are your finance partner. They do things like handle processing, purchases, payments, reimbursements, deposits, and they help keep all of our organizations compliant and aligned with policy. So, the practical move here for you all as officers: identify your SOFO contact early, save it, and use them as a resource before there's an urgent deadline. That one habit is going to prevent most finance problems. Now, you can choose your organization's appropriate SOFO contact based on this list right here. It will be based on your organization name. You can see right here A through F, G through M, N through SOC, and SOL through Z. And do not consider GT or Yellow Jacket. And for any sports clubs, just consider the sport name itself. Okay, so organization funds can live in different account types, and the rules vary based on the account, starting with foundation accounts. Now, foundation accounts is where sponsorships and donations live, things that require gift receipts, okay? These balances are going to carry forward for you. Custodial accounts, this is any money your org collects, things like dues, ticket sales, fundraising, and balances here, they also carry forward too. SGA accounts, these are a little different. Funding here is specifically allocated through SGA, and any unspent funds here typically return at the end of the fiscal year. So, officer takeaway: just because you have money and you know that, that's not enough. You also need to know what type of money it is and what rules will apply. So, this is why you need to be reaching out to your SOFO accountant early. If you're unsure what exact account type you use or what process applies, don't guess. That's exactly what SOFO is for. You can learn more about the Student Organization Finance Office on their website, sofo.gatech.edu. You can see right here they have very helpful policies and procedures, as well as a lot of information and direct links to forms or requests you may use while managing your finances. And you can also find direct contact information for all of your accountants as well. So please do not hesitate to scan this QR code and review the SOFO website, learn more about their processes and more about their procedures. RSOs do have the opportunity to apply for funding, and funding can come from multiple different sources. So, some of our most popular or common funding sources are SGA, Parents Fund, Buzz Funds, foundation grants, and fundraising or sponsorships as well. Different sources have different timelines and restrictions. You're going to have to make sure you're planning early enough to actually use it correctly. One of the most popular options for funding for student organizations is provided through the Student Government Association. They provide funds that are distributed through two main channels: budgets and bills. Many people don't understand the difference between budgets and bills, so it's important to familiarize yourself. Bills are rolling requests submitted throughout the year for one time needs. Budgets are annual allocations requested in advance. The most important thing to remember here is that neither of them work well as a last minute rescue plan. So, if you're going to be doing bigger programming, finance planning has to start early. While we recommend all RSOs submit a budget in advance with their needs, we know that things pop up, and that's why bills exist as well, to fill the gaps. If you're new to learning the finance process, please don't trial and error your way through it, friends. Use our resources. First, start with our website to explore your options. We have different funding sources listed up here, as well as additional information and resources for them. And we also have step-by-step tutorials listed up here as well. You can learn things like how to assign the finance officer position and engage. And you can also explore how to do things like submit an SGA bill. So please use these tutorials first, save time, prevent mistakes, and avoid any delays. The simplest truth of finances is that it takes time. So please remember, submit your requests early, confirm availability and approval before spending, and avoid last minute purchases. If you want smooth events, finance steps happen before the week of the event. Luckily, Engage helps us keep our finances organized. You can view things like balances, spending, requests, and any history from your organization all through your Engage finance tool. And that matters because leadership changes every year, but all the information in here stays. So Engage keeps your org from losing any financial continuity, even in the midst of transitions. So when you need to work on finances in Engage, you will just use your finance tool. And if you don't see it, that usually comes back to roles and permissions in your Engage roster. Same theme as events. Now we are in our final section, the Engage section. Engage is not just for annual registration, it is how your organization is going to stay operational year round. Engage is home base. It's home base because it connects you to key resources that we talked about, things like event visibility, room access, officer communication, financial tools. So when Engage is accurate, everything is running smoother. When it's outdated, your organization loses time. It's also a living record of your organization, of your leadership, of your events, your finances, any progress you might have made. That record is what makes your transitions easier. Not all in your brain, it's not screenshots in your phone, it's a centralized shared system that's going to carry forward no matter what. And it only works if we work it, y'all. Okay, so updating officer roles is not optional work. This has to happen. You must be updating your roles regularly and immediately as soon as they change. It's going to determine access and communication. Only the officers that are listed are going to be getting things like official updates, reminders, deadlines. And if your roles aren't updated, you might be missing critical information. And that's how problems start to sneak up later. Another benefit of Engage, it includes built-in attendance and tracking tools. Tracking attendance helps you understand things like engagement levels. It helps you demonstrate impact. How do I know that you were even successful? And then you can also use that impact to support funding requests later. Not only that, it also helps your new officers see what worked last year instead of just guessing, oh, we've done that and it was really successful. Let's do it again. And when you need help, please use the support resources listed here. Please develop the leadership habit of asking early. Early clarification prevents disruption. Same theme, all training. And before we go, this is your operational checklist, okay? If you're a new officer, I want you to do a few things, all right? I want you to meet with your faculty staff advisor. I want you to make sure your officers are listed and engaged. Review your organization's constitution and officer duties. Check in on your organization's finances, add your events and programs to Engage, and check out any upcoming events we might have going on Engage. If you do these things consistently, I promise your year will be easier. Last step, complete the post-training form so your completion is recorded for annual registration. After your form is submitted, your officer onboarding requirement will be satisfied. The form can be located at bit.ly/onboarding26. That's bit.ly/onboarding26. Case sensitive. Well, that's all I have for you. If you're interested in learning more, please sign up for one of our many workshops or trainings that we offer for RSO leaders throughout the year. Thank you so much for your patience and for listening. And please know that the Center for Student Engagement is always here as a resource for you.